The Med Fax Podcast is your monthly prescription of medicine with your host, Miskwa, the Mad Clown Prophet. Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of the Med Fax. This episode is all about pop culture astrology with our guest today, Tejhler Leadbeater. So Tejhler is an enigmatic force coming from Laxul First Nation, an artist who focuses mainly on performing. Tejhler is always looking for a new inspiration in the world around them. Inspired by AI, the solar system, club kids, and taxidermists, Tejhler describes themselves as a star-born party girl and hopes to wow you with their astrological knowledge and insight. Tejhler has been studying astrology for almost 6 years now, focusing on pop culture and celebrity astrology, and only giving out readings when referred to by friends. I believe that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So Tejhler, just for so our audience knows, what kind of astrological systems do you use?
I prefer to use Western systems, even though I have been learning about Eastern more recently. I think it's way more in-depth the more I read about it, but what I've been studying mostly for the past 6 years has been Western astrology and using not whole sign, but Placidus.
Yeah, I am a sucker for whole sign, but I have been recently intrigued by my Placidus chart, so I am very excited to talk more with you today. So let's get into our main topic. How did you get into pop culture astrology in the first place?
Well, honestly, when I was first learning astrology, it was mainly just like for self-introspection, but then it kind of made me really emo sometimes. I'm like, I don't want to think about this. But then I'd be like reading magazines or like seeing like stuff on Twitter about like certain celebrities being crazy, and I'd be like, I wonder. And it just became like a habit of me to just like look up someone's like a celebrity's birth chart whenever like a scandal or something would happen and see like my interpretation of like why this might have happened. And it's actually really fun. It keeps me like interested and like super in tune with the things around me. Like I find like we're gonna get into like with Kanye West, like I just know his chart now because he's always in the news.
That was something I did want to ask, is whose charts are kind of on your mind as of late?
Yeah, Kanye West has been on my mind for the past couple of years. I just think his chart is really intriguing. But I've also been super into like looking up like Julia Fox. I think she is a genius. And then it turns out she's a double Aquarius. So it makes complete sense. I'm like, of course she's a genius. Of course she's like breaking all these like boundaries and stuff.
Innovative, revolutionary.
Mm-hmm. And she's not a nepotism baby. So that's something I can really get behind.
Amazing. So another question that kind of goes back to how you used to do your chart for yourself, but then it was just too depressing. So do you want to talk a little bit more about that and kind of like what you want to get out of your astrological practice?
Before I did try to monetize it, and it was a lot. It was a lot having people put so much, I don't know how to describe it. They took my words very, very literally when astrology is never literal in the first place. You have a choice in your own actions, you know what I mean? So people would kind of put my words in to be set in stone, and I didn't like that pressure. So when I'm doing astrology, I just like to do it for my friends or like friends of friends. just to keep it kind of light. And I don't really charge them that much because I don't, like I said, I don't really want to make it like a huge monetization thing. And I just like looking up charts for myself for fun. Like, and with my friends who are into astrology, I like to just send them stuff and be like, haha, look at this. And then we just like laugh about it for a while. And like, that's what I like about it.
Yeah, definitely. And in the past we had even attempted to talk about the big three of the Jersey Shore, but just due to terrible Wi-Fi connections, it never happened. But that's one of my favorite things with you is speculation on celebrity charts. So is there anyone that you're speculating about right now?
I'm honestly pretty interested in Chloe Cherry and her chart because I like her story and where she's come from and like how she's trying to like change her image now and stuff like that, but still being super supportive of like sex work and stuff like that because she was doing pornography for a while, but then she got her role in Euphoria, and now she's doing like modeling and acting more seriously, but she's doing also like a lot of like sex work advocacy and stuff like that, which I think is really cool.
Did you study the transits on that transition in career?
No, I actually have yet to really look into her chart, but I was listening to the Julia Fox podcast, Forbidden Fruits, and they were talking about astrology signs, just their sun signs, and Chloe mentioned that she was a Virgo sun. So I think that's very, very interesting.
You know what? I think it's like, speaking of Virgos, it's so important to look at like the star charts of people's families as well, because I really credit my amazing organizational skills to having a Virgo mother, because as like a Sagittarius stellium, that's kind of not always heard of.
I feel like with my, like, I definitely agree with that because, like, with my own mother, she has so much water placements, even though she herself is an Aquarius as well, but she has so much water placements. And I feel like my chart is really lacking on water placements, except for, like, my Pisces Mars, which is a lot, but my mother, like, she really, like, has always been a super, like, empathetic force in my life and, like, very emotional force in my life, and she's the one who I think has taught me the most on, like, how to, like, express myself in that way.
That's amazing. I love to hear it. So as infamous as your mother is, let's get back into talking about celebrities. And just because we mentioned it briefly, I want to dive in deeper into your obsession with Kanye West.
I looked at his chart for the first time when it was like 2018, and it was just, I think it was around the time he put out like his Yay album, and I was like, dang, this man is really going through it, because he announced and canceled like 4 albums in between that time, I feel. And then I was like, I want to see what this man's chart looks like. And it was like one of the craziest, most interesting charts I've ever seen in my life. Like, he's a Gemini sun, Pisces moon, Cancer rising. And he has a full star, upright like star pentagram made in aspects, like the degrees based on like where the planets are and stuff like that in his chart. And something I've read, like, it's not something you see very often, but like these people are always super well known, and they all, like, I've only seen it once in one other chart, and this person had such like this grandiose like superiority over everybody, like in their own mind, and constantly just believed that they are right and everything that they're doing is like the way it's supposed to be in their path.
Yeah.
And that they're chosen for something greater. But like, but everyone's aware of this, so it's like kind of true in a way.
Definitely different, living a different kind of life. So, is there any other people aside from Kanye that you know that also have this pentagram, this star out of quintiles?
I do, but I know them personally.
Oh, okay. So no celebrities.
Yeah, no celebrities, and I don't really like them that much, so I don't want to give them that sort of satisfaction of talking about them on a podcast.
Words are power. We can appreciate that here at the Med Fax. So, another part of your astrology is your advocacy and focus on the power of the rising sign. Is there more that you would like to get into that?
I feel like people only view your rising sign as just like your outward appearance.
I have heard this too. Please go on.
And I kind of hate that. Like, yeah, sure, it has a play, but like also your fourth house is heavy on appearance. That's like your genuine genetics is what the fourth house represents. So you got to take that into consideration as well for your outward appearance. But your rising sign is like a lot more than just your appearance. It's your outward energy, your vibes that you give off, but it's also like the way you carry yourself, like purposefully and like not purposefully at the same time. I find like Mercury is your super purposeful, like planned out actions and movements, like something that you've been planning for a long time or like planning in your head for a while. That's very Mercury. But like things you decide to do on a whim and stuff like that, that's all your rising. All that.
And I like to say that the rising sign determines the placement of all the signs within your house.
It creates the entire blueprint of your entire life. Like, it's more than just that. Like, it's the time you were born at. It shows you exactly where everything was in the sky when you were born. And I feel like people don't often look at it at that perspective. They think it is such a minor thing, but it's like, no, without your rising, there's not a lot to go off of. Like, you can only say so much when you don't have someone's rising, but you can say everything with someone's rising.
Which is also why you never give your birth time to your partner. You just say, honey, do we need to talk? Unless you want them to have the blueprint to your entire life.
Yeah. I honestly don't really like when people just like give me their birth stuff unless like I know them kind of already, because it's not really my business to know everything in your life. And that's also why I don't feel comfortable monetizing it, is because a lot of the people buying readings from me are people who feel like they need it or feel like they're lost in some way. And like, while that is very flattering that they're choosing me, I don't want that sort of responsibility.
It's a lot of responsibility. And then you also need to think about all of the non-humans that are attached to them that you begin to interact with when you start looking at them.
Mm-hmm. It shows like your ancestry. It shows your traumas. It shows like the things that like can haunt you at night, like your nightmares. And
that's a lot of power for someone to have. And you often see birth charts being used non-consensually.
Yes. I feel like with celebrities, it's a bit different because, especially when people have their lives already on like reality TV shows or are constantly posting on TikTok, there's always like a degree of like awareness there that their lives are going to be out there anyways. And like gossip happens. And it's kind of fun to indulge in gossip sometimes, like I'll admit it. But I don't want to like deep dive into like their closets and their horror stories or whatever. What was the original question?
That's okay. It was something about consent and using astrology.
Right. I really, like I said, like I don't feel comfortable unless I know the person or they're mutuals with someone that I know well, because some people just aren't ready to hear the truth, and even though they give me their consent, they might revoke that after the fact because they don't like what they've heard.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely certain topics that are ample conversation in astrology and divination circles about what should and should not be shared in terms of what you see.
I find a lot of, when I was first getting into astrology, there was so many like people that would be like, oh my god, look up this guy's chart that I'm talking to. He gave me his birthday. And then I used to do it because I didn't really like understand what I was looking at completely. So there wasn't a way for me to deep dive into that. But now I'm just like, no, I'm not going to do that for you. Let me know about his red flags. Because someone could have the exact same chart as this guy and not be a total douche, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I once met a young man who had his partner asking for his birth time, and I told him right away, don't do it. But I did show him what his partner wanted to do with it, which was how to look up his chart and how to decipher some of it. And I think he appreciated that because it's a great tool that we can use for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
definitely. I think it's great for introspection. I think if you have a friend that knows how to do astrology, ask them how to understand it. Don't ask them for like readings unless that's their thing they're doing. But like otherwise, like ask them for help on understanding it yourself, because most of the time people who do astrology kind of hate putting in the work to send you articles that you gotta read. And people a lot of the time just kind of expect you to sum it up into a few words for them. And it's just like, no, that's way too much effort and you're not paying me. And I don't want you to pay me at the same time. So just go figure it out figure it out.
Yeah, figure it out.
Because that's whole part of the learning experience. Because I feel like I feel like I've been a broken record with some people, even if they have paid me. I can say the same thing about the same relationship over and over and over and over again. But they keep paying me for it, and I have to just be like, okay, I'm not taking your money anymore because I've told you this already. Maybe you should learn how to read your chart yourself, and maybe you'll put the pieces together in your mind because it's obviously not getting through with me.
Yeah, and they're not dating you. They're dating this other person.
Yeah, exactly.
That's who you should be talking to.
Exactly.
So I totally understand that. And I think a lot of the really exploitative tarot and astrology that I see is very centered around our attachment issues and relationships.
Definitely.
And that's one of my favorite things about my own mentor and his mentor and the philosophy behind their tarot practice is that it's not about any sort of prediction whatsoever. Mm-hmm. It's just
honestly, I don't even look at my own relationships in astrology at this point. Like, I've seen too many like I call them the fearmongers of TikTok for like spirituality.
Yes.
Because there's so many that'll be like, oh, you got a 12th house synastry? Be prepared for them to leave you at the drop of a hat. And it's like, you can't say that to people. Like, that's actually gonna freak people out. And so, like, I don't know, I just don't even look at my own stuff anymore because I find when I'm just scrolling even, some of those things can just ring in my head being like, oh yeah. But I'm like, no. It's going good.
Well, and that's where I think it's like...
I'm just not even gonna worry about it.
It's
I
a
have
great
nothing to
self-reflective practice because if I'm looking at all the negativity in my chart, I need a fucking attitude adjustment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, I have no desire to look into, like, my relationship astrologically at this point because things are good and I don't have any questions. So, like, why? Why would I? You know?
And celebrities are so much more fun, especially when they are getting into trouble and doing strange things.
I love it. I love it. I feel like I'll just text my friends randomly being like, oh my god, this person did this. And they'll be like, who's that from? I'll be like, this one movie that came out like 2 years ago. I just thought you'd know. Like the Army Hammer situation. I don't know if you heard about that.
No, let's hear about it.
Okay, so I think he was in that movie Call Me By Your Name with Timothy Chalamet, the pointy jaw man.
Okay, tell me more about the pointy jaw man.
It was about like a really like weird age gap gay relationship.
Oof.
Yeah, big oof. Anyways, people ate it up, so he was pretty famous for a while. I think he was in a couple other things, but then like in 2020, these messages got leaked of him like talking to somebody, talking about like how he had fantasies of like cannibalism and stuff like that.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
That's like a real life Wendigo.
Yeah. Yeah. he had like fantasies of people of like cannibalizing people like sexually and stuff like that. And then he got blacklisted. And then he started renovating this motel ranch in the middle of Joshua Tree. And then 3 people go missing in the area, and then all their bodies are found within the perimeter of this frickin' motel thing that he's renovating. And now he's like living on the Cayman Islands being a fish guide, and it's so weird. I haven't looked at this man's chart yet, but like,
well, please get back to us.
I will. If I had my phone, I would pull it up right now. But I can only just imagine the Mars aspects.
What's your theory?
I feel like he's got like some heavy Pluto-Mars conjunction in the 2nd house.
Oh, interesting. Why 2nd?
Because he was famous, right? But like the 2nd house is also representing like your hidden kind of desires and like stuff you like that holds comfort to you. Like I feel like a lot of people don't realize that because it's the house of Taurus, but Taurus is ruled by Venus.
Venusian. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And so these kind of come from like a sexual nature, you know what I mean? Like
comforting
and
as well. Yeah.
Being in the house of Taurus, it's like it has a gluttony aspect to it as well
because it's so material. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's just what I'm thinking.
Very interesting.
Yeah. But I think Mars and Pluto, because it's so Scorpio and violent, and you know what I mean, like definitely like some heavy Mars Pluto aspects going on. Either like opposition, conjunction, or like, because if it was an opposition, one of them would be in the 8th house, you know?
Tell us more about that
the 8th house. The 8th house is very like about after people die, like what happens after people die.
Because it's also taxes and paperwork.
Yeah, so it's taxes, paperwork, inheritance.
You gotta do a lot of that when people pass away.
It's the money that you receive from other people. But
so that would also be through marriage as well. Yeah.
Because it's after the 7th house, which is the house of partnerships.
Exactly.
Business, legal.
So you gotta do all that paperwork after you solidify that partnership. Mm-hmm.
And then, so the 8th house, but it's considered a darker house because it also rules like occult, things that are like esoteric ghosts, like death subjects and stuff like that, like the people who might pass away in your family and stuff like that. Not to be taken super literally, though. People are always like, you can find out how you die in your 8th house. Don't believe them. Don't believe them.
There's so many angles to interpret, and astrology is only an art of interpretation.
Oh, Avicii died during his Saturn return.
And what house was that in? What sign? Why was that significant?
I believe it was in his 9th house, but I could be wrong. I remember looking it up after he passed away, but I just remember being like, oh, he's like in the middle of his Saturn return. Like his I don't want to like, this is just my thoughts, my personal beliefs. I feel like his like soul, whatever, was just like, I can't deal with this. Maybe in the next life we can process this lesson, because Saturn is such a force, right?
Yeah, and the ninth house is just really interesting. You know, it's like it's like Sagittarius's place, and it's like both like higher philosophy,
And
but also
Avicii was also at the
religion.
height of his career as well. Like,
Yeah,
pretty much. He was doing massive festivals,
yeah.
and I think it was a big shock for everyone when, like, in that community when he did pass.
Yeah, and it also is, you know, around like foreign travel, so it's kind of like a spiritual journey that he went on.
It's something that his soul needed to process in some way. In some way.
So, we've talked a lot about astrology of the past, the pop astrology of the present. I'm interested in hearing, what do you imagine will happen in the future?
Okay, so I've been, like, waiting for Pluto to transit into Aquarius for years. Years and years and years. I remember, like, I first started, like, really looking at it, like, in 2018. And this wasn't counting retrogrades or anything, so I'm like, it says, like, it should be transiting in about 3 years, but with the retrogrades, it might take 4 to 5. And this was back in 2018. And it's been about 4 to 5 years at this. Well, it's been about 3 years at this point. So in the next year, we will be transiting into Aquarius with Pluto, but then it'll be going back into Capricorn for like a year maybe because of the retrograde. And then I believe at the end of 2023 or at the beginning of 2024, it'll be transiting back into Aquarius for good. And I think around that time, like that 2024, 2025 era is when people are going to be getting really fed up with a lot of the fake internet culture, like editing, influencers. People are not going to be satisfied. People aren't going to want to see influencers anymore. I think people are going to...
Just like the detrimental impacts it has to our mental health for these, 20-second, 10-second sound bites, and then we're just inundated with, oh, you have ADHD, you need to be medicated, but really you've just been on TikTok all day.
And it's like the amount of people who've like also faked mental illnesses on TikTok as well, like just spewing like misinformation and stuff like that.
Oh, the misinformation is so, like, there's such a plethora.
It makes me think of that one girl who would...
But I think faking is a kind of pathology in and of itself.
Oh yes, absolutely. I think that's like still mentally ill. I still think that's still mentally ill in its own way. But which I think a lot of people do forget because they do ostracize these people for
it becomes an excuse
but it's like I think this comes from like there's a bigger issue at hand than them faking it.
Yeah, which is like the systematic poverty.
And it's like, I feel like a lot of these people also who do get called out for faking it, they're probably trying to receive help for what they actually need help for, but keep getting turned away. It's not easy to receive mental health care.
Oh, God.
Unless you're rich.
Oh, God.
It's not easy to receive mental health care at all, so... these people might just like be acting out in a way to just receive any kind of support.
Yeah, I think everyone's the hero of their own story. Mm-hmm. So that is one of the things that's going to change. Pluto going into Aquarius, and we're going to get annoyed with the internet. I'm ready for social media to be over. I hear more and more people deleting Instagram and Facebook, and I feel better when I don't use it.
I feel like there's going to be more celebrities like publicly stepping down as celebrities. Like Shaq. Shaq's publicly stepped down as a celebrity.
Interesting.
I think he did that about a year ago, but he said, I no longer want to participate in this culture. I'm sick of it. And now he's just trying to like I don't think he'll ever live a regular life. He'll always be very comfortable because of the
But that's so
stuff he's
quite
done.
a
But,
revolution.
yeah, no, absolutely. I still think what he's doing is like just the start of like the impact. Like I feel like he's one of like the front runners of that sort of like movement. I think a lot of celebrities are going to be like, is it really worth it? I don't think so.
So, the end of social media, celebrity culture beginning to transform. What do you think about, if you think social media is going to go down, what do you think about all these attempts at creating a metaverse?
I think people, well, like, honestly, my take on, like, I watched this one movie a long time ago. It's an anime movie. It's called Summer Wars. It's so good. It's so good. I love the art style. I think it's crazy, but it's a very, like, metaverse, like, when a metaverse goes wrong type movie. And it's about, like, the viruses in the metaverses and stuff like that can come from it. And I think people might actually buy into the metaverse for a little while. And these virus type things, like, something's gonna happen with the Pluto Aquarius.
That's so interesting because I've heard other astrologers say this, that after the physical pandemic, there's gonna be like this virtual pandemic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally agree because people are always like, haha, Aquarius is so quirky, Aquarius is so fun, Aquarius loves their friends. Aquarius is also ruled by Saturn.
Yeah.
You can't forget that. Saturn is destruction. Saturn is growth and learning. Like, that
all I think about is that painting of Saturn
devouring
eating
his son's
head.
Yes. Because that was all the prophecy. Because there was a prophecy that Saturn would get murdered by one of his sons to take his place. So he killed his son preemptively.
Which was Jupiter.
Yes.
And we had the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in 2020.
Yes. So I think that's pretty interesting. But, like, Uranus isn't that, like, pleasant either. And I think people also forget that because they're just like, oh, Uranus, it's just the quirky rebellion sign. But it's, like, rebellion. That's going to flip shit upside down. The planet is on an axis. It's not even spinning the right way. Like, what do you think that things are just going to happen, like, smoothly? With, you know what I mean? It's not. I think maybe the actual Y2K will happen with Pluto and Aquarius. Last time Pluto was in Aquarius, I believe it was the Civil War in America.
Yeah, we just did an episode on that with Asha Sutcliffe.
Oh,
so,
very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting though because your future is it's kind of dystopic. Is there any kind of things we have to look forward to in your imagined future?
I think that the It Takes a Village concept is going to blow up. Because I think with the transition,
it's going to be necessary.
With a Capricorn, people have been so independent. People have been like, I can just do this on my own. I can do this on my own. With everything that's gone on with COVID, our recession being as bad or if not worse as it was in the 1930s, just a bunch of other shit that's going on in the world, global warming, all that. That sort of independent mentality, like, yes, it's great to be independent, but you cannot be afraid to ask for help in these times. And I think that's imperative. I think that's what people are going to be understanding. It's like, I can't do this alone. I need a family, whether it's my blood family or a family that I make or choose for myself.
A real community.
Yeah.
That supports each other.
Because that's also Aquarius, is community. It's not just like rebellion and chaos. It is a lot of community.
Other groups of people.
And the well-being of other people. Humanitarianism.
Yes, exactly. The humanitarian nature.
And I think that's something everyone should look forward to and everyone should be open to, because if you're not, I think natural selection is going to be more of a thing as well. So it takes a village for real.
So what are you going to do as an astrologer when all the celebrities step down?
Honestly, I might still look at their charts. I might still look at their charts just to be like, I wonder what they're doing now. Like if I look at their chart, like, are they happy or are they like desperate for like fame to come back?
Well, I look forward to reading your dystopic future celebrity fan fiction.
Thank you.
It's been such a pleasure having you here today, Tejhler. Is there anything that you want to promote before we say goodbye?
By the time this comes out, I probably will have already performed in my drag show, but hopefully after that there will be more. So keep your eyes peeled for Clairvoyant.
Yes. So if you are a production house or a presenter, check out @CastlePony on Instagram and book Clairvoyant for some drag today. Thank you so much for joining us this month, and keep looking to the stars.
Thanks for having me.
The Med Fax would like to acknowledge the support of the Ontario Arts Council and listeners like you. Please like, follow, and subscribe on our Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch, and where all podcasts are found.